watching West Hartford Community Television.
You're watching West Hartford Community Television.
You're watching West Hartford Community Television.
For the community, by the community.
I'm the first one that'll tell you, poverty sucks. But being comfortable and being able to basically do what you want to do when you want to do. I mean, I'm not talking about having a jet or things like that. That's not the point, okay?
Hello and welcome to Shalom Hartford. I'm Pat Kazakoff, and today we're speaking to Coleman Levy, former owner and chairman of New Britain Rockcats. Coleman Levy, listed as one of the 50 most influential people in Greater Hartford, 2009-2010. Did I mention Coleman Levy? Born and brought up in New Britain, Connecticut. I'm Pat Kazakoff. You're watching Shalom Hartford. Stay with me. I understand you're bred in New Britain. Tell me about that.
My parents moved to New Britain when I was approximately a year and a half old.
And where did you live in New Britain?
Originally on Wilcox Street. We lived in a 6-tenement house.
So I notice when you say the word tenement, you smile at me.
Yeah.
Is that an advantage or a disadvantage?
I really can't recall because of the age that I was.
Right,
okay?
but as a gestalt.
But I do remember.
You're smiling.
I'm smiling because my parents told me why we had to move. The building was owned by a Russian family. They kept chickens. They had a little chicken coop in the backyard. And I threw stones at the chickens.
Not nice.
Not nice.
Not nice.
And
not
they
nice.
told my parents that we would have to move. Okay.
So you moved. So you were in the projects.
And we moved from that location to East Street. And we moved to 236 East Street, which was Sunvale Manor, which was a city-state housing project of approximately 200 units, sort of garden type.
But you're saying that you're saying this fondly, and most people who they're brought up in the projects or the city projects or the tenements, they feel that it was a disadvantage in their life.
Well, it wasn't a disadvantage. Okay, there were wonderful people who lived in the project. There were families. For many people, it was initially supposed to be transitional housing, but it became permanent.
Did you ever think, this is not where I'm going to end up? Did you ever think, I need to get out of here? Did that ever come into your head?
I knew at a very young age, okay, that I said, this is not going to be my life, okay? I am going to try and make for a better life. Not that my parents didn't work hard to provide, but it was under circumstances with 2 brothers and a sister living in confined spaces, and there was nothing wrong with it. I mean,
so how did you get that idea in your head?
I think it was the values that my parents taught, and which I realized as I got older. I didn't realize it at the time, but the fact of the matter is that education was important, okay, and that was going to be your opportunity to do better.
Were your parents educated people?
My mother was a school teacher. She went to New Britain Normal School, which was the teacher's school in New Britain. My father was not educated, but he was a real craftsman. He could fix anything.
So he's talented.
He was talented, okay.
Now, did that talent come to you?
Well,
It's a yes or no answer.
My answer is I can do a lot of things, but I didn't have the real talent that my father had.
So if we advance a little bit, why did you decide to be a lawyer?
Well, I didn't decide to become a lawyer until very, very late.
So give me a trajectory. Like, what did you do? First of all, I understand you went to University of Connecticut.
Yes. At an early point, I realized that the way I was going to get out, was going to move along and move up, was to become a professional. I had thoughts at one time of being a dentist. I was pre-med. I went to graduate school on a NIH fellowship, and I decided.
So you must have been good in school as a young person to even have that kind of thought in your head.
Well, I was pretty good in school from the time I was in kindergarten. Okay.
Did you distinguish yourself academically from your peers?
There were 3 or 4 of us that sort of sat sort of in the top of our class, and I was a decent athlete. So that in combination, at a time where there was post-Second World War, living in New Britain, a highly ethnic community, a fair amount of institutional anti-Semitism in this country at that time. My mother, let her rest in peace, always said to me, Coleman, the playing field is not level, and you're not going to level it. So you better work hard. And I think that was sort of an attitude that was, I started to realize was the truth.
That you had to work hard.
Yeah.
So you've been very, very successful in your life, and I'm sort of interested in, was there a precursor to being successful in your life today? Could you look back and say, well, I was head of this, and I was a leader in this, I had leadership skills. You were one of the 50 most influential people in Hartford. You have won numerous awards. You're chairman of the Yukon Foundation. I mean, this doesn't come overnight.
No, it takes a lot of effort, but I would say that a couple of things have given me this opportunity as I went on. I still practice law every day.
So why law? Why did you choose being a lawyer?
Well, I thought at the end of the day, I started to realize what I thought some of my strengths were, okay? And I think I always had a proclivity for business, okay?
Even when you were young?
Yes. Okay.
And how did it display itself when you were younger?
I remember I caddied, made extra money. When I got to college, my roommate and myself ran a couple of little businesses, okay, to supplement and always have a couple of extra dollars. I worked in the Catskills during the summer. I became the assistant maitre d' at a fairly large hotel.
Do you remember the name of the hotel?
The Raleigh Hotel in South Fallsburg, New York.
I worked at the Concord Hotel.
Okay, right up the street.
Right up the street. You liked business. There was something about business that you liked, and so you chose to be a lawyer.
Yeah, and although my father had a little business as a peddler, we talked about business. So, business was not a foreign element in our household, okay? And I understood it. And some of the things my father did, I thought were stubborn, okay? But I learned in some ways what not to do. Okay.
So was it a good decision to become a lawyer? Did that give you what you?
Oh, I have absolutely no regrets. Okay. No regrets whatsoever. I mean, I don't think about other things that I could have done because there are other things that I could have done. Whatever success you might label me with, I give great credence to my wife, Judy. She's been totally supportive. She's been there at every movement, and some of them have been tough and some of them have been not as successful. We came at a generation where she was responsible for raising 4 sons. She did a terrific job. but she was always supportive and helpful, and there was never a complaint.
You said there were some successes and there were some tough times. Can you recall one of the times that was very, very tough?
We went through a difficult time through the colonial era, and with regard to strong partners and with regard to a strong wife and strong children, we went through those difficult times. And
how were you involved in the colonial?
Well, we had represented them, and there were some allegations about some wrongdoings at times, which were finally resolved. But you know, it's very difficult when you have a little bit of a profile in a community, and you know, you appear in the major newspaper every 3 weeks above the line, whether you like it or not, and not totally complimentary because they weren't writing about airplanes that land. And so, you know, you had to explain to your children how you have to get up every day and you have to put a smile on your face and you have to walk down the street with your head high, okay? Because you have to look in the mirror and understand what you did as opposed to what people allege that you did.
So that was a difficult time.
I mean, you know, but we dealt with it, and
I mean, you've moved on. It's what, 20 years later or so?
plus
20 years later.
Yeah.
You were heavily involved in real estate.
Yeah.
That was basically your field of endeavor. What was one of the, and you're known as a deal maker, that people say that if you want something done, Coleman will never screw up the deal. Other lawyers tell you what you can't do. Coleman tells you what you can do. Can you tell me an example of a real estate deal that made you feel great, that, you know, that was a real big deal for you?
Well, fortunately, there have been a number of them.
Okay.
But I remember when I represented a group when we bought the Gold Building, which is now being resold again.
Mm-hmm.
I remember people saying, well, UTC owns it and they're not going to sell it and it's not a problem and blah, blah, blah. As a result, I figured out a way to get a proposal before UTC. It's 30 years ago. I was approximately 45,
40s, in your 40s,
my
40s.
forties.
Yeah.
And it was an exciting project, and we put it together, okay? Another real exciting project that I did was Owens Place, which is on Farmington Avenue in Hartford, Frederick Street, Owens Street, and Farmington Avenue, and a little bit of Sisson Avenue. And that was putting together approximately 50 separate parcels of land into a package to develop this particular project, which rehabilitated the west end of Hartford, because those buildings were in utter disrepair, and it was becoming an area that was deeply embedded in petty crime,
So
prostitution.
you've had a lot of success in your life. Much of it we haven't even mentioned. But as a philosophy of life, what part of this would you attribute to luck? Because you happen to be in the right place at the right time, or you were connected to the right people. What was the luck factor?
I think the luck factor is being lucky enough to take advantage of an opportunity at a particular time. Opportunities are created. There are people who take advantage of certain opportunities under certain circumstances where other people might call that luck. I think it's taking advantage, and what I mean by advantage is seeing an opportunity and trying to.
So I'm going to ask you a pointed question.
Sure.
Because you mentioned at the beginning, you were talking about effort and work. That was something that your parents spoke of. They didn't speak of luck. They spoke of effort and work.
Yeah.
And now we're talking about luck. So as an equation, your success, would you say 50-50 luck and work? Or what would you, it's a pointed question, what would the equation look like for Coleman Levy?
I think it's 75-25.
And 75 being?
Work, thought.
Okay.
and
Work and thought, 75%.
an effort.
You've had a big civic presence in Hartford. You've won awards from Hartford Business Journal, Chambers of Commerce. I mean, you've done a lot in that realm. Where's the Jewish angle in all this? How does that guide you? Is it important to you? Do you think that had something to do with your success?
Of course.
How?
Well, I think first of all, the religion, the way of life, ethical behavior, honesty, being concerned for your fellow human being.
Well, one can say, though, that that's not, that's part of the Judeo-Christian ethic. That's not particularly Jewish. That's Judeo-Christian.
But it's become Judeo-Christian. It is very much part of the Jewish ethic, okay? And the fact of the matter is of doing good and helping others, okay? And understanding that, look, there's a reason that we ask that the land be left fallow every 7 years because it has to rejuvenate and renourish itself to move forward. And I think that we as human beings have to do that, and especially now with Rosh Hashanah having just finished, and now we're in those days if we're going to be in the good book or the bad book,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And I think, though, it's reflection, okay?
And you find that guides a lot of your thoughts?
Correct.
Most of your civic duty, I notice, is in Hartford. You're heavily involved with UConn, you're chairman of the UConn Foundation. You're head of sponsorship for the Jewish Federation. You're heavily involved with the JCC, with your synagogue. But the only thing that you do outside of this area is the Dana-Farber Institute, the Mass Challenge, the Pan Mass Challenge.
It just so happens that Storrs, Connecticut is 30 miles from Hartford, and that's where the foundation office is. But that's a national, international nonprofit. Dana-Farber is a situation where we've tried to create some lemonade out of lemons. Unfortunately, our oldest son, Perry, passed away on October 20th of 1999. It's coming up shortly on 16 years. Perry was a very unique, dynamic, spectacular young man. He was diagnosed probably in July of that year, and we lost him in October. As a result, his wife, Melissa, a phenomenal young woman in the Levy family, started a foundation, an endowment at Dana-Farber. Every year we have Team Perry that rides in the Pan Mass, which is a 2-day bike ride, and you can start in Sturbridge and end up in Provincetown on the second day.
I understand that you've raised over $4 million.
Well,
was that your intention?
When we started, we didn't know where we were going, okay? But I can say this to you, that last year, to date, we have raised probably close to $6 million. Our primary objective is to pay for salaries of what they call first-year investigators, which are first-year people in the system who basically have their MD and PhDs. In addition to that, we've done some private, unique projects where we were asked to set up the cataloging of blood
So you must
samples.
get a huge amount of satisfaction.
It is. This year, Team Perry was almost 60 members rode, and the unique part of this is that to a great degree, they didn't know Perry. Most of these people never knew Perry, but they've come to know Perry. As a result, we have a dinner. Judy and I have a dinner for all the bike riders and their families the night before the start of the Pan Mass, and then we have a winter get-together.
It's a huge project.
It's a huge.
And I can see by your face again, you also get a lot of satisfaction from what you've done for the community. And on closing, is there anything else that you want to share with people? I mean, there's a lot of people who have your story but don't have your results. There's a lot of people who were brought up in the projects in New Britain, who went to law school, who became lawyers, but they don't have the level of success that you had in your life. Is there something that you want to tell people? Is there, besides that 75% is work and only 25% is luck?
Well, let me say this to you. I think as human beings, okay, understand that there are a lot of different ways of evaluating and defining success, okay? And I can tell you one thing. It is not strictly economic. Far from it, okay? It's what you derive personal satisfaction from. And don't do anything that you don't have a passion for. Don't do anything that you're really not committed to, because if you think it's just the right thing to do because it's the accepted thing to do, it's very false. You'll become very transparent, and that is not what leads one to satisfaction. If your objective is to do good, to work hard, to help people, the results that flow from that, you can't even measure.
We've been talking to Coleman Levy, and well, you heard it here. Be passionate about what you do, work hard, take advantage of opportunities, and then just maybe, you'll get some good results. Thank you very much, Coleman.
Thank you.
Hey,